Hello friends, my name is Bintou and welcome back to my channel. So I really wanted to sit down and shoot a new video because I've gained so many new subscribers over the past couple days. At the time of this filming, I am on the road to 500 subscribers. That is amazing. I am so grateful and so humbled that many people, minus the 2 or 3 friends that I coerced into subscribing to my channel, have watched my content and decided that they liked it enough to subscribe for more. I also know that a lot of subscribers came from Ariel's channel, so I want to thank her for including me in her description box, and I want to welcome all of the new people that came from over there. I hope that you continue to watch my videos and that you enjoy the stuff that I'm planning to put out. Alright, so because of all of these new people, I wanted to do a video where I sat down and you got to know a little bit more about me, but in a bookish way, because this is booktube after all. And so I decided to film a video where I talk about the books that are the most important books to me that have had a profound impact on my life, or in other words, 5 life-changing books. Now, where did I get this from? Actually, in my personal life, whenever I come across friends or acquaintances who read, I like to ask them this question: what is the most important book that you've ever read? And I like asking this question because it's a hard question to answer, because that's not an easy title to just give away to a book, right? And I want to ask that question of all of you guys that are watching this video. So drop a comment below. I read them all and I respond to them all, telling me what is the most important book or books, because God knows I'm about to list 5 of them, that you have read. I'm super interested to see some of the things that people say and to find out if I've read some of these books or if they're books that I'm planning to read. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get into the 5 books that have changed my life. Okay, so the first book that I want to talk about is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now, this is a very popular book, and I'm sure that almost everyone watching this video has heard of this book. The basic premise of this book is we're following this young boy. His name is Santiago, and he's going on a journey to discover a treasure. And along the way, he is getting guidance from a mentor, and he's also gonna be hitting some roadblocks, and he has to overcome them to finish his journey. And these roadblocks are going to test his faith and his perseverance. And then the way that the book ends, it's a super lovely ending. I love this book. I think what I like so much about it is the reasons that some people give for hating this book. So I've seen like Amazon reviews where people have given it 1 star because it's not going to explicitly tell you what to do. It's not that kind of self-help book, but I also don't like those kinds of self-help books anyway. I like the fable-like nature of the story because it allows you, the reader, to take away from it whatever it is you need to take away from it. Every time that I've read this book, I've read it 2 times, and it's only one of 2 books that I've ever reread. Whenever I have read it, it has forced me to reflect on my own life and my own life journey to make sure that I'm applying the lessons that I have taken away from this book, and to sort of evaluate my priorities and making sure that I'm doing things that I love. This book is also very short. Both times that I have read it in 1 sitting, and it can be read in a matter of a couple of hours, and that's it. Let me know if you've read The Alchemist. I know a lot of people probably have read this one. All right, so the second book that has had a profound effect on me is called Half the Sky. And this book is written by Sheryl WuDunn and her husband, Nicholas Kristof. This is another probably somewhat well-known book, and I discovered this book because it was on display at my public library during, I think it was International Women's Month or something like that, and that's when I picked it up. And this book tells the stories of young girls and young women, primarily in Africa and Asia, and it illustrates the struggles that they face because they were born female and poor. This book is heartbreaking. I remember when I read this book, I couldn't help but cry at some point, and I'm not sure that you'll be able to get through this book without shedding a tear when you hear the life stories of these girls. The stories in this book will touch on topics like rape and child marriage, female genital mutilation, domestic violence, and sex slavery. So it's important to know that before reading it if any of that is going to be a trigger for you. With that said though, this is a really important book to read, and in the description Someone called it a book for every global citizen, and I would agree with that. At the end of the book, the authors do present some resources if you want to help the women that are in these situations. So, and after reading this book, that was the first time that I had learned about Kiva. And what Kiva does is basically it allows money to be loaned to women so that they can build their own businesses. And in building their own businesses and creating their own income, they can build the independence that'll help allow some of them to escape from their situations. There actually was a, so at the Bill and Melinda Gates Visitor Center, it's in downtown Seattle, there was an exhibit that was based on this book. It was about 2 years ago, and I did visit it while it was still there. And that exhibit was super awesome. So it was filled with all of the photos that didn't make it into the book. So you could actually put faces to the stories that were in the book. I have since read Melinda Gates's book, The Power of Lift, and it's on a very, very similar tone to Half the Sky. All right, third book on my list is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Now, the reason that this book is important isn't because the book itself is the best financial book that there is. It was simply the first financial book that I ever picked up personally. And what I liked about this book is that it laid out a step-by-step plan for understanding your finances better and automating things and getting them in order. And I feel like this book was mostly written for people in their 20s, their early 20s. They're just starting out with a real income for the very first time. And it is primarily targeted to a United States audience. But I remember when I picked this up, so it was my very first year out of college, and I had my very first big girl job with my very first big girl salary. And I got my first paycheck, and I just stared at it and was like, where did all my money go? Because I didn't realize that, you know, things get deducted, things like health insurance if you're American, retirement, and all the taxes as well that come out, and then if you're part of a union as well. So that was all news to me. And this book helps set in motion the financial learning journey that I had taken on from then until now. This was also the first book that taught me about the power of making things automatic and also what investing is. So before reading this book, I had no idea what investing was, what a Roth IRA was. And these are all things that I now know a much greater deal about. And I have since read more personal finance books after this one. But like I said, this was the very first one. And it was super easy to read, and without it, I don't know that I would have learned the things that I know now sooner than I did. All right, so the fourth book on my list is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. So I read this book for the first time a couple years ago as well. I think it was about 2 years ago. And this was the first book that I'd ever read by Maya Angelou, even though I knew who she was and I had heard of her before. So this book, there's a little bit of conflict as to how to categorize it because it is autobiographical, but it also reads like fiction, and Maya Angelou has admitted that some of the aspects to the story are fictitious. But basically, we're following a young Maya Angelou from her early life up to about her teenage years, and much of the book focuses on the struggles that she's facing with racism growing up in the South, the southern United States. One of the reasons that I love this book is that if you've read anything by Maya Angelou, you would probably already know this, but her writing is absolutely beautiful. And it's such an interesting format to learn about someone's life in this fictional autobiographical nature that she's taken. And I really enjoyed it. And then the second reason I love this book is because you really get to witness the transformation that she's taken from this super timid, super shy, quiet young girl into a more confident young woman who has faced so many challenges and has overcome them. This is definitely a book that I probably should add to my list of things to reread, and I need to read more of her books as well. I know that there's a series that continues off of this autobiography. The other thing is actually I love the title of this book. I mean, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I'm sure we've all had moments where we know why the caged bird sings. And then the fifth book on my list is Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. This is another super popular book. It's been on Bill Gates's list, and I think Obama has promoted this book as well. And this book is basically, as it describes itself, a brief history of humankind. And so the way that he breaks this book up is he separates it into the three major revolutions in human history. So the cognitive revolution, the agricultural revolution, and then the scientific revolution, which is what we are presently in. I like this book because as I have grown older, I feel like I am attaining a much bigger appreciation for history. History was by far my least favorite subject when I was in school, but lately I've been reading more books that focus on the history of different things, and I'm really appreciating how important history is in shaping the things that we see today. One of the things that this book touches on is how our history of being hunter-gatherers affects us today in things like our diet. And then the other discussion in this book that I really enjoyed was when he talked about the myths that we've created as humans, particularly the one on money and credit. Those are really fascinating things to look into for sure. Something that I found since reading this book is I watched an interview from Yuval Harari, and it's on YouTube. And the interview is about him being gay, which I actually didn't know about. And he talks about the themes of myths and stories that humans have created versus reality, and how that wisdom has allowed him to accept the person that he is, the way that he is, even though his reality contradicts what stories are considered normal to most people. I will say that, and this is a common criticism of the book that I found, he's not shy about inserting his own opinions into the book, and he doesn't distinguish between his own opinions and what is strictly fact. So that's important to know as you are reading this book for sure. I don't think he does it to such an extent that it takes away from the overall purpose of this book. Alright guys, so those are the 5 books that I consider the most important books that I have read. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. You guys are the true fans, and I hope that you leave a comment below telling me about the books that you consider super important. At some point, I'd like to go through those and then compile a TBR based on them as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.